thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Join us as we dive into the deep end of the unexplainable and try to piece together what happened. You are listening to Locations Unknown.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locations Unknown. I'm your co-host, Joe Irado, and with me, as always, is a guy who spills his milk just to prove he won't cry over it, Mike Vanabogart.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you once again to all of our amazing listeners for tuning in. Just a few updates before we get going. First, new Patreon shoutouts to Justin Ware, Alex Sison, and Elizabeth Persons. So, thank you for following the show.
Thank you very much.
Supporting the show. We truly mean it. We're not just saying it. So
one of us means it more than the other. You have to figure out which one.
Yeah, figure that out. No, but truly thank you. Everything you see in the video and hear in your ears is because of supporters like you. So thank you so very much. If you want to call the show, you can call 208-391-6913. We're past due for doing another voicemail episode. So
yes.
Joe is going to be off on a little adventure the next week, so you've got a few more weeks to call. But I'm feeling like when he gets back, we're going to do one. So
I'm going to be like ready to go.
Ready to rock and roll. So
yeah. I'm going to Miami.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Fun.
It's supposed to be a little chilly, though, so we'll see. Hopefully that ends when I get there.
Nothing can be colder than here, so.
Yeah, it's like, right now it's showing it's like 70.
Yeah. Wow, I feel so bad for you.
Last time I was there at this time, because I go to Loveburn, which is the Burning Man regional.
Yeah.
It was like 80 and sunny the whole time, and that's really what I want right now in February.
Yeah. So, well, that'll be fun for Joe. I'm stuck here in the Arctic wilderness.
I'll send you pictures of how awesome it is.
I'm going to look at them in July.
Yeah.
If you want to follow some of the other shows on our network, you can follow Off the Trails, Weirdos We Know, Who Runs This Park, Crime Off the Grid, and Relish. If you want to support our show, we're on Patreon, YouTube memberships, premium subscriptions on Apple and Spreaker. We have a store that you can buy hats and playing cards and all kinds of fun stuff, sweatshirts. So check that out if you want to support the show. And if times are tough and money's tight, at least, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, subscribe and leave a comment. That just helps with the AI masterminds to help distribute our show better.
Yes.
So,
is this going to air this Friday or next week?
Next week.
Okay.
All right, we'll cut that out.
Yeah. No, we won't. That's right.
So,
I was going to say something that might be relevant, but it'll be too late by then.
Oh, okay.
Oh, actually. Yeah, if they hear it Friday, they wouldn't be listening to it. I was going to say, if anyone's at Loveburn, let me know, and I'll go do a meet and greet. There's like thousands of people go to it. Who knows? Maybe.
Well, this will be airing after you're back.
No, I'm coming back. I leave Tuesday next week. I go through the weekend and come back the Monday.
Oh, okay.
But they would have to listen to it while they're there, and I guarantee no one's going to be listening.
No one will be listening.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, everybody, let's gear up and get out to explore Locations Unknown. April 1st, 1981. A 28-year-old elite solo climber leaves a remote shelter deep in Alaska's Ruth Glacier, pulling a sled and heading alone towards Denali's imposing east side. Experienced, deliberate, and traveling light, he moved into a heavily crevassed ice beneath one of the most unforgiving mountains on Earth. When his expected return window passes, concerns begin to grow and search efforts expand across glaciers, avalanche paths, and possible exit routes. Join us this week as we investigate the disappearance of Johnny Waterman. So we are headed up to Alaska's Denali National Park and Preserve, sublocation the Alaska Range. Denali, or Mount McKinley, Ruth Glacier System, south side of Denali, and Ruth Gorge, specifically the Sheldon Amphitheater, which is the Ruth Glacier, northwest fork of Ruth Glacier, east buttress of Denali, that was his intended route, and the Thayer Basin, the upper east buttress region.
Everyone get that?
Yep. If you're from Alaska, you might remember all that or have been there.
Yeah, and later on when you're showing stuff, I put some pictures because I actually
Of your photos?
in Denali. I wasn't on. We were pretty far from the mountain. You could kind of barely see it because of the clouds, but yeah, I was only there for a day.
Yeah.
So
That's okay.
so someday I'll go back. It's hard. It's hard to get to the actual mountain.
We should do a listener trip there.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, one of these days when we have time.
Our list of things we're gonna do when we have time is like 200 things long now.
But if we were doing this full time, we would crank through it immediately.
Oh yeah.
So, get more patrons. Everyone listening, go tell everybody.
Yes.
So, when was it established? It was established on February 26, 1917 as Mount McKinley National Park, expanded and renamed Denali National Park and Preserve by the ANILCA on December 2nd, 1980, and officially renamed to Denali National Park and Preserve in 2015. It sees roughly 498,000 visitors per year, so almost 500,000. Some interesting facts. Denali is huge. It's huge. It's bigger than many U.S. states. Denali National Park and Preserve covers 6 million acres of wilderness, more area than the state of New Jersey. I do like through the years about how New Jersey is always the reference for measurement of national parks.
Always the punching bag. It's tiny.
It's always like almost as big as New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's bigger than New Jersey. It contains the tallest mountain in North America. Denali summit rises to 20,310 feet above sea level, making it the highest peak on the continent. It hosts a remarkable diversity of wildlife. Denali is home to 39 mammal species, 169 bird species, and even a native amphibian, made richer by wide-open glacial valleys and tundra. It has only working sled dog kennels in the national park, the only working dog sled kennels. So the sled program has operated for nearly a century, and these dogs historically helped rangers patrol wintertime wilderness. You can see Alaska's Big Five wildlife while exploring the park, especially along the Denali Park Road in summer. Visitors can spot grizzly bears, moose, caribou, wolves, and Dall sheep. The climate conditions are extreme, if you can imagine. Denali lies far enough north that it experiences long Arctic winters and short summers, and its high elevations are permanently snow-covered, conditions that have produced some of the coldest recorded temperatures in the U.S. Permafrost weaves through much of the park, so Denali's ground is underlain by permafrost, a permanently frozen layer of soil and ice. Climate change is melting parts of it, reshaping landscapes and causing landslides like the Pretty Rocks landslide along the Denali Park Road, a living reminder of geological change in action. Some more in-depth features of the climate. In late March and early April, Denali exists in a seasonal no man's land. Winter has not released its grip, but spring storms begin to destabilize snowpack across the range.
Is that called a straddle month?
A straddle? No. No.
You remember?
Yes, I know. I was gonna let it slide.
We're gonna get t-shirts.
A straddle months.
Yeah, the straddle month.
Shoulder seasons.
I Googled it, and actually in meteorological circles, they actually do call those straddle months sometimes.
Or somebody who wrote books also made the mistake and just decided to make it permanent. And it's like, I'm an authority on this matter.
Yeah.
I do like how you screw words up and they end up being actually okay later. But like in my mind, they're still wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shoulder season is like the hiking vernacular.
Yeah. Straddle months.
Straddle
we'll do a straddle month trip to Alaska for the listeners. Nobody's going to come. So daylight, back to this now. Daylight is increasing rapidly, yet temperatures remain brutally cold and the mountain's weather systems are volatile and unforgiving. This is one of the most dangerous transitional periods on the Alaska Range calendar. At elevations along the Ruth Glacier and its northwest fork, where Johnny Waterman was last seen, temperatures commonly range from negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit to 0 even during daylight hours. That's like the last 2 weeks here.
I know that it doesn't seem that bad for us.
Well, we're in buildings.
Yeah.
Wind chill regularly drives perceived temperatures far lower. Sustained winds funnel through the glacial systems and accelerate around buttresses and ridgelines, producing sudden whiteout conditions with little warning. Storms in this period often arrive fast and violently, bringing high winds and heavy snowfall that can erase tracks within hours. On Denali, a single storm can completely reset the mountain, filling crevasses, loading avalanche paths, and obscuring any visual trace of movement. A documented storm struck the Ruth Glacier region on April 2nd, 1981, one day after Waterman's departure, significantly altering surface conditions and visibility. Avalanche hazards is particularly acute in early April. Snow deposited by late winter storms sits atop older, weaker layers, and rising solar input begins to stress these bonds. Even small slab avalanches in this terrain can have catastrophic consequences, especially on glacier forks that funnel debris into crevassed runout zones. Multiple climbers in the area reported active avalanche conditions during the same window Waterman was traveling. Crevasses themselves pose a unique spring hazard. Snow bridges that appear solid in cold midwinter conditions begin to weaken as temperatures fluctuate. Wind-loaded snow can mask voids dozens or even hundreds of feet deep. On heavily broken glaciers like the Northwest Fork of the Ruth, safe travel typically requires rope systems, a margin Johnny Waterman did not have. Finally, April weather on Denali is notoriously deceptive. Clear mornings often deteriorate rapidly into afternoon storms, with winds increasing and clouds forming below climbers, cutting off escape routes. Aircraft access becomes unreliable, and rescue, even if initiated immediately, can be delayed for days. In 1981, search flights were repeatedly grounded or limited by cloud cover, turbulence, and visibility even during otherwise flyable windows. In short, the climate in Ruth Glacier area during early April is not just cold, it is actively hostile to solo travel. The combination of deep cold, unstable snowpack, and complete crevasse fields and rapidly changing storms creates an environment where a single misstep or delay can become fatal and where evidence of that moment can disappear almost instantly.
It sounds pretty violent and wild.
Yeah, it sounds like somewhere you probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
More about the terrain. The terrain where Johnny Waterman disappeared is not a single route or a feature, but a layered gauntlet of hazards that begin long before climber ever reaches Denali's main mass. From the Sheldon Amphitheater, the Northwest Fork of the Ruth Glacier acts as a narrow, winding corridor of ice, riddled with deep crevasses and constantly reshaped by snow, wind, and icefall. Travel here is slow, technical, and unforgiving even before elevation becomes a factor. The Northwest Fork is especially dangerous because it is heavily broken but deceptively smooth-looking. Wind scours the surface flat, making crevasses with thin snow bridges that can collapse without warning. These openings are not shallow cracks. Many descend tens to hundreds of feet, and once inside, self-rescue is effectively impossible for a solo climber. This section of glacier is normally traveled roped, even by experienced teams, because visual cues alone cannot reliably identify safe passage. As the glacier rises towards the east buttress, the terrain steepens and funnels climbers toward terrain traps, areas where a slip, collapse, or avalanche carries consequences far beyond the initial event. Slopes here angle upward into hanging basins and serac zones, while the glacier below breaks apart into labyrinths of slots and ice towers. Any fall in this zone is unlikely to stop on the surface. Gravity does not just pull downward, it pulls climbers into the mountain. The east buttress itself is not a clean ridge rising from the glacier, but a complex interface of snow slopes, rock bands, and ice runnels. Approaches require traversing beneath loaded faces and crossing avalanche paths that naturally drain into the glacier below. Even small releases in these zones can knock a climber off balance and sweep them into crevassed runouts, where evidence disappears quickly and permanently. I heard a story once in these like very same ice fields.
Yeah.
That if you fall down, they're so riddled with crevasses, you could hear someone yelling and probably not find them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if you're this couple hundred feet away, like because there's so many holes and they go so deep.
Yeah.
And how like you could probably hear them, like you could basically hear them yelling and never be able to find them again.
Yeah, from what I've heard from when we were there in Alaska, summiting Denali is one of the hardest summits on the planet. Not necessarily because of the climbing involved, but just getting there.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a normal park where there's lots of trails to get in. Like, it's all backcountry.
It's an adventure just to the base.
Just getting in there is like you're reading. This is how you just get to the mountain.
Yes.
It's very difficult.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So I'll go to some of the hazards Johnny would have faced on his hike in Denali. The most immediate hazard Johnny Waterman faced was traveling completely alone in one of the most complex glacier systems in the Alaska range. On Denali, solo travel doesn't just remove companionship, it removes redundancy. There is no backup if equipment fails, no second set of eyes to read snow or ice, and no margin for even a minor injury. Any incident that would be survivable for a rope team becomes potentially fatal when faced alone. So crevasses were the single greatest objective danger. The northwest fork of the Ruth Glacier is densely fractured with snow bridges that can appear solid wall, concealing voids hundreds of feet deep. So you could be walking across something that looks solid and it's only like a foot of light snow and you just break right through.
And then you're gone into,
a void.
A void, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. And it can be like falling off of a building.
Yeah, 100 feet.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
There's stories of people that will slide down because it's ice. They get wedged.
Yeah.
And then they're stuck for so long. If you unwedge them, they'll have blood clots.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no good scenario.
Yeah.
In early April, the fluctuating temperatures and wind load weakened those bridges, as we said before. And Waterman was observed traveling completely unroped, meaning a crevasse fall would have resulted in immediate entrapment with no possibility of self-rescue. So he had no ropes, was walking across this stuff. If he falls in, no one knows exactly. He's, I would say, impossible to find.
Yes.
In this environment, avalanches don't need to be large to be lethal. We talked about that. Several climbers in the area reported inactive avalanche conditions during the same period. Exposure was another constant threat. Outside of everything we've been talking about, he was not carrying any tent or sleeping bag, relying instead on movement and snow caves for survival. The strategy demands constant physical output, which it can work.
Yeah.
If you dig down in the snow, you can make a really nice area. You don't need that stuff, but you can't be injured. You have to be physically capable of digging it out, which is a lot of work. If anyone's ever dug like skiers, if they get stuck in the snow, like you can see them and like getting all the snow off, it's a ton of work.
Yeah.
So any delay, weather, injury, navigation error increases the risk of hypothermia exponentially. In April conditions on Denali, immobilization for even a short period can be fatal, especially at night when temperatures plummet and wind strips heat away rapidly. Navigation itself was hazardous. Whiteouts are common on the Ruth Glacier, where featureless snow surfaces blend seamlessly into the clouds. In these conditions, even experienced climbers can lose orientation, drift into unsafe terrain, and unknowingly cross weakened snow bridges. Solo climbers cannot safely probe crevasses while maintaining balance, especially when pulling a sled, which can destabilize footing and increase the fall risk. Finally, rescue limitations magnified every other hazard. Aircraft access in this terrain is weather dependent and often delayed for days. Ground rescue is slow and extremely dangerous due to crevasses and avalanche exposure. In practical terms, Waterman was operating in an environment where help was unlikely to arrive in time, even if an emergency had been immediately detected. Taken together, these hazards did not operate independently. They compounded each other. A slip became a fall became entrapment, a delay became exposure, and in terrain designed by ice and gravity, the mountain did not need a catastrophic mistake, only a single moment where everything aligned against him.
So
don't go there.
Yeah.
Ever. Especially in the straddle seasons.
Yeah, it takes very experienced climbers in a team to really do this safely.
And he was experienced.
He was very experienced.
He's very experienced.
Very fit. Yeah, we'll get in the timeline of what he did, which is impressive even before he got to Denali.
All right. Well, tell me about him, Mike.
Yeah, so his name is Johnny Waterman. He was born September 9th of 1952. His last confirmed sighting was April 1st of 1981. He was a male, age 28. He was about 5'8" to 5'10", 140 to 160 pounds. He had brown hair, brown eyes. He had a beard, and he had a beard. He was lean. He was endurance trained. He's done very long distance solo alpine trips before.
So it's safe to say when they say he didn't have a sleeping bag, he didn't have a tent, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
That was on purpose. It wasn't like an oversight.
No, and he had very warm gear on. So he had a blue jacket, blue pants, vapor barrier boots, snowshoes, snowmobile suit. He had a bivy sack, but no tents. And Joe's going to pull up just some pictures I found. Got some of there's a picture of Johnny there. There's a picture of him. He was well known in the Alaska climbing community. Like, he was known as one of the best climbers at the time.
Okay.
Kind of renowned in this part of the country. So yeah, he had a bivy sack with no tent. He had a red plastic sled that he'd used to pull his gear. He had route marking wands. He had around 14 days of food with him, which included things like powdered milk, honey, sugar, flour. Like Joe said, he was not carrying a sleeping bag, tent, or radio. You know, they didn't have personal locator beacons at that time, I don't believe. So he was pretty much out on his own. And you're not going to see a lot of people. And you can see some of these routes like up Denali. Like, there's one of the routes up.
I don't even understand that.
Yeah.
Like, I like how they're like, yeah, it's obviously it's this line.
Yeah, and some of the other pictures show kind of a more expanded view of, I have kind of in the picture title what we're looking at.
Do you want me to back up?
That's Mount Hunter. That's referenced in here somewhere. I mean, all looks really cool. That's the East Buttress. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very technical climb. It's something you don't just do on a whim.
Yeah, no amateurs.
Personality-wise, Johnny was, like I said, widely regarded as intensely driven, highly independent, and deeply committed to solo climbing. He favored minimalist approaches and accepted extreme risk as part of his philosophy. He was known to be thoughtful and articulate, but also increasingly withdrawn over time. He resisted reliance on technology or assistance and often rejected conventional safety margins. But with all that said, he didn't exhibit impulsive behavior and planning. His actions reflected long-term intent and goal-directed movement rather than randomness. So, you know, before he went on this adventure, he had it all planned out exactly how he was going to do it. So it's not like he was going to show up and figure it out.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what he was going to do. So, medical issues. So Waterman had a long history of documented mental health struggles earlier in his life, including periods of institutionalization following some family trauma. But there was no evidence that indicates of any acute medical impairments at the time of his disappearance. And there was no record of physical illness or injury prior to April 1st of 1981. As far as occupation and hobby, this was pretty much his hobby. He was an alpinist and endurance climber. He was a writer and thinker within climbing circles. He was a dedicated wilderness traveler. You know, he wasn't a professional guide, but his primary identity was as an independent solo climber pursuing extreme personal objectives. He kind of reminds me a little bit of that guy who free soloed Half Dome. You know what I'm talking about?
Alex Arnold?
Yeah.
He just climbed that Tapai building and live streamed it.
I feel like, obviously, they're doing different things, but I feel like a guy like Johnny and a guy like Alex are kind of cut from the same cloth. I watched that documentary on him doing the Half Dome.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's wild. I liked when they did the MRI on him to like say like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And they just found out like the centers of his brain that normal people light up for fear just
doesn't exist for him.
Yeah. He just like, I think he has like the strongest fingers on the planet. He has to.
I mean, I can't imagine some of those drone shots where he's like halfway up Half Dome and you just hanging on by like, 8 fingers.
Yeah.
And like his feet.
And it looks like a flat wall.
Yeah.
I don't understand
how he did it.
I don't know.
So if any of you listening haven't seen the documentary on his climb up Half Dome,
it's called Free Solo, right?
Free Solo, yeah. I strongly recommend watching it. It's absolutely amazing that a human being could do that.
Yeah.
So, all right, back to Johnny. Experience in the wilderness. So he had extensive wilderness experience. He had years of experience traveling alone in remote, high-risk wilderness environments. He was capable of long unsupported approaches, snow cave survival, and prolonged isolation. Some of his notable achievements include a months-long solo traverse on Mount Hunter, which we had a picture up of Mount Hunter earlier. He's made multiple winter attempts in the Alaska range, and he's done repeated solo expeditions emphasizing endurance and self-reliance. Prior experience in this location, he also had significant experience here in Denali. He was familiar with glacial travel, like I said, snow caves and cold weather survival. He also had knowledge of Ruth Glacier region and standard approach corridors. However, the Northwest Fork area of Ruth Glacier and East Buttress approach represented some of the most complex and hazardous terrain in the park, especially for someone who's doing it solo and unroped. So even though he has all this experience, he's still undertaking probably one of the hardest things a solo climber could do.
So my cursor is on the Ruth Glacier, and I'm trying to zoom out until you can like really see. I mean, you can see towns, but they're so far away.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's deceiving how far away Anchorage is from Denali. You know, it's at least a 5-hour drive, if I recall correctly. Basically just going straight north.
I mean, this chunk.
Yeah,
is like Denali National Park.
And you can see it from, hours away. You can see Denali kind of just rising from the ground and the horizon. It's a crazy sight to see.
That's crazy.
And it's so massive. And
this is the Ruth Glacier right here.
Yeah. It was so cool just being there. When you're there were other tourists and stuff, but it's remote. You're out there. So, and Joe's pulling up a few.
Pull up your pictures.
Yeah, we didn't have anything, though. The funny thing was it was sunny when we started hiking. I was with our friend Flavio. And
Flavio.
It was sunny when it started, and then it started pouring later in the day, and we ended up getting just soaked. It was warm enough where you could wear shorts.
Until it wasn't.
I wasn't wearing shorts. It wasn't that warm. But
because you know the rules.
Yeah. One of the pictures you can kind of faintly make off Denali in the distance. Open up one of the darker, like that one. So way off in the distance, like over there. Yeah,
that's where the snow.
That would be the start of Denali.
Jeez.
We never got a good picture of it just because of the clouds. Even where we were, I'd love to go back.
Look at that. That's pretty. Nice little rainbow.
Yeah. Double rainbow.
All the way across the sky.
So yeah, towards that afternoon, a storm started rolling in and we just got absolutely soaked. We saw some moose.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's just so...
you just look any direction, you see mountain ranges. It's just nonstop mountains.
I love it.
Yeah. I only got to experience it for a day, but it's a hard place to get to.
And then you got married.
I got married and had
engaged.
kids. And
yeah.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we will move into the timeline. So the prior years, this is what I call before 1981. So Johnny had spent several years preparing for the winter solo ascent of Denali. He had made multiple unsuccessful winter attempts in the Alaska range, steadily increasing his commitment to solo climbing. His reputation was shaped by extreme endurance efforts, including, like I said earlier, a prolonged solo traverse on Mount Hunter, which he did with minimal gear. However, his life also was marked by tragedy and loss of life. His brother, Bill, disappeared during a sea kayaking trip in 1973. And afterward, Waterman struggled with isolation and some mental health issues. Like I said earlier, he did spend some time institutionalized before returning to climbing. And by the late 1970s, Denali had become his kind of central objective in what was driving his motivation in life. He was going to, summit that mountain. It's now winter 1979 to 1980. On December 19th of 1979, Waterman flew to the Kahiltana base camp area, intending to do a minimal provisions winter solo on Denali. He remained on the mountain for roughly 2 weeks before abandoning his attempt due to weather and logistical issues.
This could be that area. So there's Kahiltna's Peaks East.
Okay.
And this shot looks like a more established area.
Yeah.
They built some wind walls.
Yeah, just right out of the snow.
Yeah. It's so gnarly. It looks beautiful.
And cold.
Yeah. But I mean, you're just on a, like, this is what's terrifying about this. Like, this is on a glacier, right?
Yeah.
So they have this little area down. You could like walk off 100 feet that way and go bloop, go down.
Yeah.
Like, just done. Like don't go out to go pee at night.
No.
Or like rope up or
like just stay in the designated zone that doesn't have a 100-foot drop under your feet.
Well, and even then, and I'm paranoid and I overthink this stuff. All I'm thinking of, they could be on top of a big snow bridge somewhere that's just fine all day, and then all of a sudden you walk on it and you weigh an extra 10 pounds than the last person.
Or an avalanche happens at one of these peaks.
Yeah.
I mean,
it just washes you out.
You see stuff like that happen on Everest at base camps.
Yeah, base camp got hit that one year and killed a bunch of people.
Yeah, so the risk is even there when you're not even going up yet and you're just at base camp.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're
so
deep in
wild.
at that point.
Yeah, I'm going to just pick some random spots so you can keep going.
So, this shows that he wasn't, completely reckless, because he was calling off attempts due to weather and logistics issues. So, after this, he did actually then briefly commit himself to a psychiatric care again, but then he soon let himself back out and refocused on Denali. So this does kind of highlight his cyclical struggles that he was having at the time with mental health issues.
Oh, there you go. That's how they get in. They land a plane right on it.
Yeah, with skis on it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's now February 1981. We don't have an exact date, but Waterman attempted a long overland approach towards the Alaska Range. This is crazy. He walked unsupported rather than flying in. He turned back after a stove failure and made continued travel unsafe. He soon regrouped and prepared for another launch. This was part of his audacious 1981 plan to approach Denali entirely on foot from near Anchorage. So he started in Anchorage.
Jeez.
And walked on foot all the way to Denali. So
that's just unnecessary.
But kind of cool.
It's the manliest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, can you zoom out and just look at the terrain? I mean,
where's Anchorage?
South.
So
there it is.
Yeah.
So he started.
Well, let's do
as the crow flies.
From a random spot as the crow flies. 130 miles.
Yeah. Before doing Denali, after you described the terrain.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at all these people here that flew in, and I'm just like, man, that looks awful, and they flew there.
Yeah, and he's like, nah, I'm walking in. Yeah, so,
that's in the 80s.
Yeah, like 1981.
The equipment wasn't as good. So this is Denali Base Camp.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a little airport. You can see, look at, there's a plane.
Yeah.
So this is where he was headed first. This area.
Okay, is that the Ruth Glacier?
Yeah, this is part of it.
Okay.
I mean, it goes down through here.
Yeah.
It's like this is the Ruth Glacier. So, okay.
So it's early to mid-March of 1981. So in early March, Waterman snowshoed into the Sheldon Amphitheater on the Ruth Glacier and established himself near the Mountain House. I don't know if you can try and find this.
The Mountain House?
Not the food,
yeah.
Though I've eaten my fair share of Mountain House over the years.
What was it called again?
It's the Sheldon Amphitheater.
Okay, you just keep going.
Okay.
I'll look for it because it might take me.
So, like I said, he established himself near the Mountain House, and the approach itself was long and demanding. He remained in the area for several weeks, preparing equipment and interacting with other climbing parties. During this period, he arranged aircraft deliveries to the Mountain House. The boxes delivered contained climbing gear and personal items, but not food. He also returned a borrowed radio, stating he would not need it. According to his climbing friend Kate Bull, he appeared physically worn and increasingly indifferent to safety margins. So,
do you think the Sheldon Chalet is the same thing? It's on the other side.
I don't really know.
Okay, I'll
is
look
that
that
near
up.
the Sheldon Amphitheater?
Well, I typed in Sheldon Amphitheater and it gave
Okay.
me Sheldon Chalet.
Maybe the Mountain House isn't there anymore. Maybe that is the Mountain House.
I'll look it up.
So, at this time, he's been out there for a while. He's starting to kind of wear down physically, mentally. He's kind of becoming indifferent. One of the Cliff Hudson was one of the pilots for the deliveries. Also noticed, and he was a friend of Waterman. He noticed his detached demeanor at this time.
That is it.
Okay, so that's the Mountain House.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the house that he was kind of staying at. And actually, it's now March 13th of 1981, and inside the Mountain House, Waterman wrote on a box, "My last kiss, 1:42 p.m., 3/13/81." The note was left with the gear he did not take with him. So this has led to a lot of speculation of what the meaning of that was.
Mm-hmm.
So no one really knows, even to this day, but he left that, and that was kind of a impending,
Like I know
harbinger.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say, and I can't think of it either.
Yeah. It's late March 1981 now. So throughout late March, Waterman discussed his plans openly with other climbers on Ruth Glacier. He described a route up the northwest fork of Ruth Glacier, entering Denali via the east buttress. He stated he would descend the Harper Glacier, continue onto Muldrow Glacier, and walk out to Wonder Lake. He also discussed alternate exits, including Buckskin Glacier, indicating flexibility in his descent plan. He did end up leaving excess equipment at the Mountain House, suggesting a deliberate decision to travel light once he departed. So in a guy like this, who's very physically fit and experienced, he knows that extra gear is just going to slow him down.
Yeah.
And, assuming, it's probably a decent decision because you'd want to spend as little time out there as possible.
Yes.
So if you have a bunch of gear slowing you down, that increases risks of an accident. But at the same time, if something happens, now you don't have a tent, you don't have a sleeping bag, you don't have things that could keep you alive.
Yeah.
Though in this terrain and climate, I don't know if that would even matter, honestly. It's now April 1st of 1981. Johnny departed the Mountain House and moved up the northwest fork of the Ruth Glacier, and pulling a red sled. That day, climber Jerry Kerr encountered Waterman on the glacier. During their conversation, Waterman stated he carried approximately 14 days of food. He had no tent or sleeping bag. His shelter consisted of a bivy sack and a snowmobile suit. He carried vapor barrier boots, snowshoes, route marking wands, and obviously a sled. He intended to enter the east buttress near 11,900 feet and continue upwards. Kerr observed Waterman traveling unroped through heavily crevassed terrain, moving directly towards the east buttress approach between peak 11,300 and Mount Dan Beard. So this encounter on April 1st would be the last confirmed sighting of Johnny. It's now April 2nd of 1981. So on April 2nd, high winds and snowfall swept through the Ruth Glacier area, erasing any tracks and significantly altering surface conditions. And this storm would directly impact the later search, basically because it erased any evidence of where Johnny might have gone.
So this isn't like the exact route, but here's the chalet.
Yeah.
East Buttress Peak. So I'm assuming it goes like this.
Yeah.
At least. And then either that way or that way. And then zigzagging up straight walls.
Yeah. Crazy.
Just absolutely wild.
I mean, this mountain's unlike anything else in North America when you look at it. It's massive, unforgiving.
It's just insane.
Yeah. It's wild. And you look at the terrain around it, like to the north and south, it's just flat.
Yeah.
And that's why when you're driving up to it, it stands out so much.
Let's see if I can get a good picture from like over here. The McKinley River.
Yeah. Oh, it's not
all trees. I'll find one.
Yeah.
Keep going.
It's now April 4th of 1981. A National Park Service ski patrol traveled up the West Fork of Ruth Glacier, but due to the storm on April 2nd, no identifiable tracks were attributed to Waterman were visible on the Northwest Fork. The patrol included Rangers Dave Buchanan and Roger Robinson and Scott Gill. It's now April 7th, 1981. A guided party led by Mike Covington traveled up the Northwest Fork. They observed a single set of tracks consistent with a lone climber pulling a sled, moving upward toward the east buttress with no return tracks. However, avalanche conditions on that day forced the party to turn back before reaching higher elevations. It's now April 12th of 1981. Aerial reconnaissance flights were conducted over Denali's southeast, east, and north sides. Messages were dropped to climbers on Muldrow Glacier. No sightings were reported, unfortunately. Radio contact with climbers on the South Buttress produced no information as well. Climbers Rick Derrick and Pat McManus reported seeing snowshoe tracks weaving through crevasses without rope protection. Another local climber, Jim Hale, also assisted as an aerial observer. So at this time also, Waterman's parents, who at that time lived in Vermont, were notified that he was overdue. Between April 14th and April 19th, 1981, there was a lot of aerial searching going on. So you had a U.S. Army Chinook helicopter supporting high altitude testing, coordinating with park rangers to observe for signs of Waterman. On April 14th, you had overdue discussions with people, cabin inquiries, air services were coming in. You know, there were unconfirmed sightings. So a lot of leads were coming in. April 15th, the Chinook did a 2-hour flight over the East Buttress, Southeast Spur, South Buttress, Harper, Muldrow, and didn't see anything. April 18th, the pilots confirmed that Waterman's stored gear at the mountain house remained untouched. April 19th, with Waterman overdue beyond his stated food supply, the case now was formally escalated. This date also later appeared in administrative records. So, again, no sighting of him at that time. All in all, they had Chinooks from the 242nd Aviation Company working on the 15th and 19th. They had flights with Ranger Robinson and Ranger Buchanan. So some of the flights that covered, like I said, East Buttress, Harper Glacier, Karstens Ridge, and adjacent glacier systems, and all that searching, nothing was located, sadly. On April 20th of 1981, search efforts started extending beyond the mountain. So patrol cabins along the park road were checked. Dog sled operators were getting contacted and queried. No one reported seeing Waterman exit the north side of the park. Hudson did another 1.5 hour solo flight over the East Buttress area. No sign. So yeah, they had a lot of people out there, looking for him at this point, and nothing was found.
Well, so I'm looking at, this is from the West Buttress Summit.
Okay.
35.3 miles, 16,000 feet of elevation gain. So they're expecting 24 plus hours. So it's several days.
Yeah.
Minimum.
That's probably perfect conditions.
Yeah, that's like with things going well.
I was going to say, like, turn the brightness down, but it's just all snow.
It's just snow, yeah. Nothing you're going to do about that.
Yeah, it's for those just listening, Joe has all trails up, and we're kind of following the path that one would take.
This is from the West Buttress Base Camp.
Okay.
But so when I did Kilimanjaro, that was roughly 40 miles.
Yeah.
Out and back. But it was like, I'll look it up. It was a lot of elevation gain. It wasn't 16,000 feet.
No, I think I remember you saying that it was a lot of elevation gain, but it was spread out over a longer distance.
Yeah, the last push, like the last day, was a lot. Like we went through the night and had to just do zigzag up the mountainside. But yeah, it was over 4 days we did it in.
From what I've read about, Kilimanjaro is it long term gets you. It's the just constant nagging elevation gain of like 3 days straight.
And you're supposed to do it in like 8 to 10 days.
Yeah.
And because we have kids and jobs, we like shortened it. And we're like, we'll do it in like 5.
Yeah.
I think it was 5 days we did it in. And that was too fast.
That looks wild.
Yeah, that's where it's just getting gnarly. And they're not even at the other base camp yet.
No,
That's only 12 miles. 8,000 feet of elevation gain, 12 miles.
that's crazy.
That's so gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say I'd love to do this, but I would never be able to do this.
I think I'm going to do it.
You're going to do it?
I want to.
Yeah.
I'll be flying into base camp. I ain't going to like hike to the base camp.
You'll have someone drop you at the top. Then
right? It doesn't count then. You have to go under your own power up and down. That's why it like stinks. Like people that die on the mountain, like it doesn't count as a summit.
Yeah.
Because you have to come down.
Yeah, you need to die on the ground.
Yeah, you have to be finished, then die. Otherwise it doesn't, they don't even like, well, he did make it to the top, but he died halfway down, so he didn't summit.
Oh. So back to the timeline. It's April 22nd of 1981. So Bell 206 helicopter conducted a concentrated search over East Buttress and adjacent glacier corridors. This was chartered from Alaska Helicopters. It was a 3-hour flight with, again, Rangers Robinson and Covington, and it focused on crevasse and avalanche chutes. And they did find at this time an old campsite that was identified at approximately 7,200 feet, and it was consistent with Waterman's travel timeline. However, no tracks or evidence continued beyond that point. It's now late April 1981, so after more than 10 aerial missions involving the National Park, U.S. Army, and Alaska Alpine Rescue Group, with no confirmed findings, the active search operation was suspended. Johnny was listed as missing and presumed dead, and no remains were ever recovered. So I have a couple cases I'm just going to highlight. So Denali has a very long track record of climbers dying, or not dying, but going missing on the park or on the mountain. I'm just going to highlight 2 of the more well-known ones just briefly, and then we'll get into theories. I think theories in this one is pretty clear cut.
Yep.
So the next case was not too long after this. It was 1984. It was a gentleman by the name of Naomi Umura. He was a Japanese gentleman, and in February of 1984, he attempted something no one had ever done before: a solo winter ascent of Denali. And he was not reckless. He was one of the most accomplished endurance adventurers in the world. He was the first person to reach the North Pole alone, and a climber who had already soloed Denali once before in summer conditions. This time he chose the West Buttress in the dead of winter. So on February 12th, on his 43rd birthday, he reached the summit late in the evening. He radioed afterward, reporting success and saying he had begun his descent. Stopping so he lost my spot. He radioed afterward, reporting success and saying he begun his descent. The next day, February 13th, he made one final brief radio contact. He sounded exhausted but calm. He asked to be picked up at base camp 2 days later. Fortunately, that pickup never happened. A severe winter storm moved in almost immediately. Search flights were sporadic and dangerous. At one point, a pilot believed he saw him near a snow cave high on the route, but no confirmation was ever possible. Ground searchers later found evidence that he had been moving snow caves, equipment, supplies, but never found him. Despite weeks of searching by park rangers and Japanese climbing teams, he vanished somewhere on Denali during his descent, and his body has never been recovered. And, he didn't fall on the way up. He didn't disappear during an ambitious push. He summited, and then the mountain kind of just, took him. So this was a case of a guy who, like you said, Joe, he made it up there, radioed. They know he made it. And he actually, was halfway down and radioed again and was just 2 days away from his pickup and then disappeared. So that happened in 1984. Then just recently in 2023, we had a pair of climbers, Eli McKell and Baifuan Awal. Apologize if I said that wrong. But Nearly 40 years after the first two cases we discussed, this time, this was in the era of satellite communications, GPS tracking, modern search and rescue. So in early May of 2023, Eli and Awal were climbing in the Ruth Gorge area, attempting the west ridge of Moose's Tooth. It's a steep technical peak just south of Denali's main area. Both were experienced alpinists. They were moving fast and light. They were planning a single-day push. On the morning of May 5th, they sent a routine satellite check-in to a friend stating that they were starting their climb. This would be the last message they'd ever send. When they failed to check in again, park rangers launched an immediate search. Helicopters located their base camp, followed ski tracks towards the route, and then boot tracks and climbing higher. Those tracks ended abruptly at the crown of a small slab avalanche. Below that point, scattered gear was visible, ice tools, a helmet, stretched down a massive fall line into heavily crevassed terrain. For days, the rangers conducted aerial searches and short haul insertions into the runout zone. Nothing more was found. Weather deteriorated, snowfall, again, erased evidence, probably a thing with crevasses here. Officials eventually concluded that both climbers were likely swept off the ridge by an avalanche and carried into terrain where survival and recovery would be impossible. And, unfortunately, these two were not lost because of poor planning, and they were not inexperienced. They just simply were at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And most likely an avalanche got this pair of climbers. But it just highlights the dangers of Denali. We have a case of, 4 very experienced climbers going missing.
I have a feeling most people that go here are either completely experienced or they're with, if I go, I'm going to go on an expedition team where I might be the one who knows the least, but I'm not going to be in charge of anything. I'm going to be listening, and I can, I'm in shape. I'll be pulling my weight, but I'm going to be doing exactly what everyone tells me to do and not questioning anything.
Yeah, I think Denali's unique in that it's so hard to get to. That is going to be a deterrent for 99% of the people that want to do it.
Yeah, no one's just going to be wake up on a Sunday and be like, I think I'm going to go to Denali and
I'm going to go summit Denali. Yeah, no one just does that. Yeah. It's even if you tried to do that, it would be for most of us normies too hard to do.
Yeah,
on your own. So we'll get into theories real quickly. I think everyone listening probably knows what happened. But the most likely for Johnny is probably an unroped crevasse fall on the northwest fork of Ruth Glacier.
I wanted to scream that the entire episode.
He was last seen traveling unroped through, heavily crevassed terrain. He was pulling a sled with him, so, that increases balance and stability. It can act like an anchor if something happens. The northwest fork of Ruth Glacier is one of the most complex crevasse fields in the world.
A great example of this, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. It's the movie where a giant polar vortex comes down and freezes most of North America.
The Day After Tomorrow?
It might be that one. When they're walking across the snow and they're actually over the mall. And
that's Day After Tomorrow, yeah.
Okay, that is? Yeah. And they're pulling the sled.
Yep.
And they fall through. That's exactly what it would be like.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a mall. It's just an open thing in the glacier.
Yeah. And you could, and maybe you are able to get across the snow bridge, but then it breaks for your sled. Yes. All of a sudden now the sled is an anchor. And
that's a perfect example of they thought they were on solid ground and they're actually 100 feet just on thin glass.
Yeah.
Now imagine there's no glass.
Yeah.
And it's just snow.
Yeah. And a void. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think this is the most likely theory. And of course, with every one of our disappearances we ever cover, there's always a major storm that hits. There was a major storm the day after he left, which erased any tracks of where he went. And this is supported by the fact that none of his equipment was ever found. So in that more recent example of the unfortunate climbers that were swept away by an avalanche, searchers found all kinds of gear kind of in the avalanche zone. So it was they kind of knew what happened. In this case, we have no he didn't carry a lot of gear, but there was no gear found. So that supports that he might have had a sudden fall into a crevasse and just all his gear and sled went in. So, and like we've said, Joe said, if he had fallen into a deep crevasse while solo and unroped, there would be no evidence on the surface, no noise heard, and no realistic chance of any recovery. Very likely theory kind of ties into the first one, avalanche. We don't need to really go into that, but we had an example of 2 climbers that were swept away by an avalanche, probably what could have happened to Johnny.
So I feel like there's enough people in the area that were seeing him and reporting him. They would have known if an avalanche happened.
Yeah, but
maybe not if it was a small one.
Yeah, and there was avalanche activity at the time. But yeah, you're right. I mean, either way, a small avalanche, even if it got him falling, it could have knocked him into a crevasse.
Yes.
So avalanche is a possible theory. Another likely theory that maybe ties into these is a fatal exposure after immobilization. So this theory just goes, he basically survived the initial incident, but because he didn't have a tent, sleeping bag, he wasn't able to, get shelter. And maybe, if he was injured enough, he couldn't dig effectively in the snow, melt snow for water, maintain core temperatures. So, any minor injury could immobilize you and it's almost certain death in these conditions. Less likely, we just got to mention them. So there might have been psychological deterioration leading to a fatal decision, making incident. I don't think this is too likely, even though he did have a history of mental health issues. I think he was very determined to summit this mountain, and he was very well planned and experienced. And, this gets discussed a lot around because this is a pretty old case, and they bring up the note that he left, the last kiss. But he was right before April 1st, he was, articulating a clear route. He described a food timeline. He discussed exit options to other climbers in the area. None of that to me sounds like, an extremely deteriorating mental condition. It sounds like he was perfectly coherent, was like absolutely knew what he was planning to do. He seemed okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't think that's a likely theory. And then there's the other couple theories, intentional suicide.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
It sounds like it's just, in this type of mountain, in that type of condition, solo, it doesn't matter how well prepared you are. If you have one little thing, just as we said, it's too bad. It's unforgiving. And
then the most unlikely is foul play. There's barely anyone out there.
Yeah, nobody's following you out to Denali to do something.
That would be the... Yeah. So
that'd be the place to do it.
It would be the place to do it, but why?
Yeah. You'd have to time that perfectly.
Yeah. So...
I'm 100% on just like a crevasse or potentially tiny avalanche sweeping him into a crevasse or something like that.
Little slab avalanches that knocked his footing off and then he fell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think sadly, based on the terrain, based on the other cases we briefly covered, I think that gentleman from Japan, probably similar scenario.
Yeah.
And I don't, because of a crevasse fall, his remains and gear will never be found.
Yeah, I remember seeing a documentary on crevasses, and the guy was telling a story about how he could hear his friend, and it haunts him still.
I'm sure.
Because he didn't make it. They couldn't find him.
Yeah.
And they just heard him yelling for help. And it's you just have to be there's literally nothing you can do.
No.
Which is just terrifying. So,
yeah. So we'll leave you on that cheerful note.
On that note, thanks again for tuning into our show. We appreciate you all for listening and sharing Locations Unknown with your friends and family. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where you can find the videos of each episode. Also, if you'd like to support the show monetarily, please visit our website, Facebook store to buy some sweet, sweet swag. And you can subscribe to our Patreon account or YouTube and Apple, where you'll have access to special events and additional shows for paid customers only. And lastly, when enjoying the beauty of nature, whether backpacking, camping, or simply taking a walk, always remember to leave no trace. Thanks, and we will see you all next time.